Hey everybody, welcome back to Lisa Loves Stories. I'm here with a book review for the latest that I've read. This is The New Girl by Daniel Silva. This is a book that I read because it fulfills a prompt from the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, which is a title that is from movies or TV but has absolutely nothing to do with said movie or television show. So The New Girl definitely fits that description. I will start off by saying I have never read any of Daniel Silva's work, and I typically do not read spy novels. I find them a little hyper-masculine for my taste. Because the women tend to always be described as very leggy and sexy, and the men are always very burly and tough and so on and so forth, and it just is more of the same shit that I have seen and read my entire life that I am, quite frankly, a little tired of. But I decided to give it a shot. I thought that with a title like The New Girl, it might actually be more about a woman. Boy, was I wrong. This one is actually very much a spy novel where the majority of characters in it are men, except for one character named Sarah Bennett, who is somehow a former CIA agent who now has a fancy job at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I'm not quite sure how that career trajectory works, but okay, fine. I'll just go along with that idea. One thing I did appreciate about this book is that it drew its inspiration from actual events, which was the killing of the Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This one has a journalist that is killed also. So I feel like the author is really kind of driving home these ideas of, these are things that could actually happen. He does weave an interesting story. I will give him that. It's unpredictable, and it kind of keeps winding around and around and around until they get to the end. So I did appreciate that. It was a fairly quick read, and in that way it's not complicated, it's not hard. I will say that where the story fell short for me was in some of it is the writing. I have a pet peeve where when writers get too specific, I get bored. It happened when I also read Crazy Rich Asians. I don't know why authors do this, where they get very, very specific about stupid stuff that doesn't matter. And so in this book, it was the kind of gun that a person is holding. Like, I don't need to know that it's a Walther PPK or a Beretta 9mm, what have you. I don't know enough about guns to care. I don't care what kind of helicopter they're in. I don't care that the boat that they're in is a Bavaria 27. I don't care that the car that they're driving is a Jaguar F-Type or a Passat or a Mercedes something or other that I've never heard of. I don't care. I also don't care what street they're driving on. It's in London and Israel and places like that. I have never been to those places. I don't know those streets. It's not helping me with the geography, so it's just extra shit that you're asking my brain to take in that frankly doesn't matter to the story at all. So I really could have done without that. I will also say that the story, while it was unexpected and took many twists and turns, it seemed like it kind of kept going. And so it was lacking focus of what the actual point of the story is. The inside flap says, it's about a girl who's kidnapped from her boarding school and they're holding her ransom, and they hire the best Israeli spy ever to rescue her. And halfway through, they start going down this other path, and then they start going down this other path, and the girl, who is ostensibly the whole reason for the book in the first place, is not important at the end as she is in the beginning. So, I don't know. I just found it fairly meaningless, I guess, or it just meandered quite a bit more than I needed it to. I will also say that I am not Jewish. I am not Middle Eastern. I am not Russian. I am not any of those things, nor have I been to any of those places. There's a lot of history in this book that is alluded to between the state of Israel and the Middle East and Russia and the Soviet Union and so on and so forth that I am not very well versed in. I do not know my Middle Eastern history all that well. And so I also don't know what the difference between Jericho and Jerusalem and Galilee and all of these things are. I don't know very much about the Palestinian and Israeli conflict or the conflict that the Israelis have with the rest of the Middle East. I know that it's there. I know that it exists, but I don't really understand the inner workings of it. So that figures prominently in this book, and I feel like if I knew more about those things, this book would be a lot more meaningful to me to see these characters that are on either side of those conflicts come together and discuss them, and I would get something out of that. But I don't know the history. I don't know the story that each side has to tell or their points of view. I don't know that stuff. So it's harder for me to grasp onto those things and really understand the magnitude of opposing forces joining up to achieve a goal. So I feel like if someone did know that, they would probably get a lot more out of this book. I also have not spent a ton of time in London. A lot of this book takes place in London. Let me rephrase that. I have spent 0 time in London. So yes, I know where 10 Downing Street is. Yes, I know about Kensington Palace, but I don't really understand the layout of the city or how it's connected or any of that. And I feel like that might have helped me with a sense of place in this book that I didn't really have. I know the author was trying to get me there with the names of the streets and so on and so forth, but it just kind of was extra information that my brain just automatically forgot. So I don't know that I will be picking up any more books by this author or any more spy books in general. I would like to see more books about women who are spies, who are maybe not hot. I don't know, just a thought. I will say, like, he, many times in the book, this Sarah Bennett character, he comments on how attractive she is. And she's got blonde hair and blue eyes, and she's American, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, okay, I don't know. There's a couple of other women in the book that are, you know, lady spies for Moscow. And he doesn't spend nearly the amount of time on their looks as he does on Sarah's. And I don't know if that's because they're the enemy or maybe they're not hot. I don't know. But the point is, I find it very troubling when people spend so much time describing the women's looks. I feel like Sarah Bennett is really one of the only characters that I really knew what she looked like, because he never failed to mention that she had blonde hair and was American and pretty. And there was the main guy spy, the Israeli guy named Gabriel, that he had like tufts of silver at his sides, and that's pretty much it in terms of descriptions that I recall. So I would just like to see spies done better. And then on top of that, like, Sarah wasn't even that great of a character. She didn't really do shit for the whole book. Like, what was the point of her even being there? She was like a facilitator to bring these dudes together. But at the end of the day, she got herself captured. Sorry, spoiler alert. And they had to save her. So, like, some CIA operative, like, she sucks. So, anyway, that's just my pet peeve. I would love to see some better spies, and then maybe I will give them another shot. But for now, that's The New Girl. Those are my thoughts. Maybe you have some other thoughts on this book. I would welcome the discussion about that if you so chose, and we'll see you next time.